tradition didn't stop until we were all well into our 20s. We're talking, I'm like 23 at the time. My brother's a 27-year-old Arizona Cardinal and is literally throwing me over a fence to get a green egg underneath the bush at Grandma's house. So
that we always do our Easter egg hunt in the house. But I was driving by, I saw a ton of outside Easter egg hunts going on, all kinds of ages, all just like those kind of ages. Yeah,
a lot more fun place to hide them in the mailbox.
And this year I was the hider. My wife slept, so I was the hider. The Easter Bunny was a hider. But it's 10-16, I can say that. I was and we have all the stuff from my mother's house that we're cleaning out. So I had to be like, okay, I'm not hiding anything in any of the Grandma's boxes. There's nothing in there, so don't go in there. Because all I need is a hard-boiled egg, really not being hard-boiled and like breaking over stuff. But you know what? But based on the way that a lot of the stuff from my mother's house smells, would be an improvement.
That's funny. Yeah. They just used the plastic ones for us. They didn't do the hard-boiled eggs.
No, we did.
With like little, oh my gosh, this is a great one. I'm sorry to take. Okay, so inside all of the eggs, I forgot to tell you, were money, which was great. One of them had a 20 in it, which was always great. A bunch of them had dollars, some of them had change, but then there were these other ones that had pieces of paper, which was some knick-knack that Grandma went out, bought, and thought would be nice to give you for Easter. So you'd open up your egg, you'd say, oh, I got this. One Easter, my sister won a clock, but Grandma forgot to write the L. So we're like, Grandma. Oh, no. I swear to God. We're like, Grandma? What are we she's like, what? What's the matter? And we're like, unless you're giving Meryl a chicken, I think we have a problem.
She made a doodle-doo.
Yeah, she did. She was like 83 or something. So we give her some slack.
Meryl, who we learned lives in Uncasville.
Uncasville, right? In Mohegan Sun.
Now,
right
where do they get the name Meryl from? Because you got a Nicholas, you got a Merrill. Where do they get Meryl from?
I don't know. Okay. That's not a. I mean, I know I think one of them wanted to name her Anime because my grandmother on my father's side is named Anime, but that turned out to be her middle name. I don't know where Meryl got her first name. I don't.
Was it Meryl or is it Meryl?
Meryl, yeah.
Okay, right there, like as a Meryl Streep kind of. 516-572-7440. That's it's
having giving birth next week, by the way. My
she is.
Yes, she is.
Like you are. What?
No, not me. No.
It's like I don't ask.
No.
Who am I to judge? I don't know. So you'll be so. Do you know if it's going to be a boy or a girl?
It's a girl.
So you'll be an aunt, right? Is that how it works? If it's a girl, you'll be an aunt. If it's a boy, you'll be an uncle. Is that how it works? I don't know.
I'm going to be an uncle times 4, and with this one coming and my brother's second coming in July, I think. So
she already has one.
No. Rich already has one. And my cousin, who we consider him part of our family, has a beautiful little girl. Also,
look at that! So
way too many kids in this family.
Now, how do they break down boys and girls? What's the number?
Right now, it's two. It's a boy and a girl. We have a girl coming. Definitely, we're finding out what Rich's second child is this week.
Very nice. Now, Rich's wife, he met where?
Penn State.
You did meet her at Penn State.
She was a volleyball player for the 2005 national championship winning Penn State team, I believe.
Now here's a question for you. And this is would you wear a woman's national champion T-shirt?
Yeah,
okay.
I think I have one.
Okay, all right, just checking.
I actually think I have one, yeah.
Because there was a certain, I don't know if you guys saw the Women's National Basketball Championship this week, which was amazing.
Yeah,
first of all, the Final Four.
Ice blood in her veins, oh my God.
And she's a great interview, too. I love the way the guys who were given the interviews for Villanova and the ladies who were given the interview for Notre Dame, they all talked about the school, the program, not about themselves. No one said, they said that.
They said, come here.
Exactly, come here, come play. I was like, wow, that's phenomenal. That's really, really good. Yeah.
2 buzzer beaters. Final Four. She's gonna go down in like history for like ever.
The funny thing is, her name is so hard to pronounce.
Yes, it's always the one.
It's just great to see these sportscasters. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, they won.
Yeah, they won.
And a great shot by not going to work here.
And she did it again.
Oh my God!
It's like, whoa.
We're going to speak. We're going to speak in pronouns for the rest of the broadcast.
That's good.
It was crazy. He's like, oh boy, there's an N and there's a D and there's a K.
Speaking of the tournament, is anybody tired of Villanova already? I know that they've been really good, and they were a surprise coming up when they came up, but it's been 4 or 5 years of this where they're just insanely good.
You can't be harder than them yet because they lost last year. So it's like, you know what I mean? They lost.
2 in 3 years, come on.
But it's a very small school.
Yeah, and the reason why you can't be is because of the other schools that they're getting past.
Correct.
Kansas, Kentucky, Duke.
As long as those
three teams, as long as those teams don't win, I'm fine.
Yeah, all these
big schools.
No one was happier to see Calipari and Krzyzewski walk off in disappointment than me.
All these especially you're Duke and you're taking one and doneers. I mean, it's like you're supposed to be this vaunted, this great academic powerhouse, whatever, and doing all these one and done kind of guys. You sold your soul, Krzyzewski. That was the whole thing. I'm better than that. No, you're not. You are what you are. That's fine. You're what your record says you are. Your record says you like one and done guys.
And the reason why it looks even worse for Duke is because the one guy who actually decided to stay is Grayson Allen.
Yeah, and it wasn't his choice.
It's just like, whoa,
exactly.
We should leave early.
Exactly.
This is what happens when you stay too long.
That couldn't happen to I know a lot of people. There's always one guy you love to hate, whatever, but he's just hateable because he's not a nice guy.
He's the new Christian Laettner.
Yeah, but Laettner people hate it just because. But this guy really is a jerk. I mean, he does outwardly bad things. Mayfield's the same way.
I get it. I understand the whole the whole tripping thing. I can't explain it, but I have this. I want to say every time I see it, like maybe there was a reason other than the bad one.
It's in his it's his bag of tricks. That's what it is. It's in his bag. And the thing is,
like J.R. Smith,
he's still doing it. He did it in the playoffs.
When J.R. Smith used to foul a shooter and he will go to the line, he will walk over to him and probably untie his shoes right before. J.R. Smith that's his thing.
That's your arsenal.
He's crazy.
That's hysterical.
And it is amazing. Like Duke changed when they went to that 2-3, which was always the Syracuse thing. But it is amazing these guys leave Duke, and I'm not talking about the guys who are obvious could have played anywhere. They just happened to go to Duke. But the guys that are system guys, the Plumlees and the Grayson Allen stuff, they just crap out and come the NBA. They're so great and dominant in college, but come the NBA and they're not.
Like their two big men is going to be good in the NBA. I forgot their names.
Well, they had the front three were huge.
The front three exactly. Those guys you could tell. But Grayson Allen, he just seemed like a fit in.
Yeah.
He just I think the only reason why he's there is because he couldn't leave any earlier because his court issues and then his game was just too polished.
Wow, you're right. Some of these guys were really good for them, and yeah, you're right. Elton Brand to the 76ers. Seth Curry.
But if you look at Elton Brand's money, how much money he made in his career,
it's a lot.
He's the guy,
a whole lot of money.
Is he the player I'm thinking of? Is it Elton Brand? There's somebody who Prince would rent a house from in California. Like there's these NBA players who made so much money that hundreds of millions of dollars.
Well, Luol Deng was one of them. Mike Dunleavy, Gerald Henderson, Rodney Hood. Kyrie Irving.
Oh, Kyrie. At least we got Kyrie.
But he was a no-brainer.
He was a no-brainer.
He didn't even have to play, and he was.
I'm trying to find the guy you're looking for. Jaleel Okafor was a no-brainer. Well, at the time,
Cherokee Park. If you go further, there were guys like this who were just.
Well, it looks like Minnesota made the right decision by taking Towns over Okafor, though. That's a big.
Who was Elton Brand was from Peekskill, right? The guy from upstate New York was Elton Brand, right?
Elton Brand was
Newburgh,
from Peekskill, New York.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's from here.
So he just made a
Lance Thomas to the Knicks.
Yeah, I mean none of these guys. These Duke players don't translate, and it used to be
Austin Rivers.
Perfect example.
Well, it's funny because there used to be that Duke only has these white guys who don't translate to the pros. Well, now you can list lots of guys, and in the case of Mr. Rivers, he's both. But his river flows both ways. But I mean, no, it's just this system, guys. Like Grant Hill was always said to be soft. That was the funny thing about everyone always used to say Laettner. Laettner was from a working class background in Buffalo. Grant Hill's parents were very rich. Grant Hill's dad was an NFL Hall of Famer. Grant Hill's mom Grant Hill's mother was Hillary Clinton's roommate at Yale Law School. So it's like
no kidding.
Oh yeah, because Calvin Hill was a Yale wide receiver and running back wide receiver.
How about that?
So yeah, they were a Yale family, and Tommy Amaker, all these guys, the Duke system. Tommy Amaker was coaching Harvard now. He crapped out at coaching Seton Hall now. But that's the thing. It's who's going to replace Krzyzewski now? Because they're all going off to Capel. Just went to Pittsburgh. The other guys out in Oklahoma.
Well, this is the problem that. this is the problem that gets posed when one of these big coaches leaves a school that, I mean, UConn, perfect example. Yeah. Who the heck is going to replace Jim Calhoun?
That was the thing,
and no one was going to do it.
UConn was nothing till Jim Calhoun came along, and
exactly. And they have been on their way to going back to nothing. I happen to think that Hurley is going to maybe turn that place around because.
And there's an example of a guy, Danny Hurley. Not a good personality as a teenager. I don't know what he's like now in his 40s, but because for two reasons: A, his dad was a legend, and B, his brother's a legend. So Danny had to goes to St. Anthony, where his dad's the coach, where his brother's the number one guy in basketball, goes to Duke, becomes the national champion back-to-back years, whatever. Danny was okay. He was okay, but he had a brother and a dad who were something special, were Hall of Famers, and he played for Seton Hall. He played in New Jersey, where he's from, and he played. So then he doesn't have a pro career or whatever, plays for Seton Hall. But then he coaches. He gets a job coaching. Who does he get? He hires his brother. He coached Wagner.
Wagner first, that's right, yeah.
He coaches Wagner.
Susan Wagner?
No, Wagner to College in Staten Island.
Oh, the college. Oh,
and he hires Bobby to be his. Now, Bobby was going to be a great star. Bobby only had a car accident, which almost killed him, which changed his whole career. He played afterwards in the NBA, but he was done because he broke his neck and almost drowned in a pool of water. His teammate Eric Piakowski was driving behind him, following from the Sacramento Kings game, and saved him from drowning in a puddle of 3 inches of water.
Jeez.
So the Bobby's career, that was it. But Danny gets the Wagner job, hires Bobby as an assistant. Then Bobby moves on. Bobby's the Arizona State coach, which was a great place to be. And Danny had to get to the Rhode Island job and everything. But now he's got a UConn job, which will really be, you know what? Don't be a player, be a coach, because he can wind up being a great coach.
But this is what happens, though. This is an aberration. This an anomaly. This isn't normally what happens for a school that's lost a legend.
Right.
You know, a lot of the time it's building and building and building. It takes years and years, and you don't get back to that level.
Which is what's interesting about Villanova. Now, Villanova. 85 wins the national championship. 85 was a weird year because there was no shot clock. In fact, it was them winning that made them have a shot clock. So they beat John Thompson and Georgetown in 85. And then Raleigh Massimino coaches them and he retires, and it goes on from there. And they had nothing for all those years. They had Steve Lapis, who had been the coach at Manhattan College, then he went there. But Jay Wright was a Philadelphia kid. Jay Wright was from Philadelphia. Jay Wright met his wife when they both worked for the Philadelphia Stars, which was the USFL team in Philadelphia. But his wife went to Villanova. So Jay Wright was a Raleigh guy, so Raleigh went and replaced Tarkanian in UNLV when they had to clean up UNLV, and Wright went with them. And then Wright was hired as the Hofstra head coach and lived in Rockville Center. And then Villanova said, we got a guy who coaches, he wins, and he's from Philadelphia. We got to hire this guy. And what did he do? He runs a clean program. He got in good because the one thing Jay Wright did is, number one, he's photogenic. He's a great-looking guy, and he's well-spoken and all that stuff. He became friends with Francesa and Russo, to where one day he invited them on air, hey, will you come call our game? And Russo and Francesa called the game with Russo doing play-by-play and Francesa doing color commentary at a Hofstra game. And they became best friends, to where when Francesa had his last shows on The Fan, Wright was there at CW Post with LAU Post when they did that big thing. And then on the last show, he called in, the second to last show, because the last show was all callers. So Wright is savvy when it comes to New York media, even though he's down in Philadelphia, and no one's questioning where he's going to go. Everyone's like, no, his loyalty is to Philadelphia. His allegiance, his players are like, come here or whatever. No one, Brunson's was Player of the Year.
Yeah,
right? I wouldn't be surprised if some NBA teams threw him
which is weird because he's getting paid nicely. He's in his,
but I think he stays.
He stays. He's not going. He's not leaving. There's only one job he would take would be the Sixers.
But there's a reason these guys don't leave these cushy coaching jobs. The Nick Sabans. They are the kings of those towns.
The thing about, I always found that for recruiting purposes, because I really, as a fan of college basketball, I didn't really become a fan until like freshman year of high school, because I guess it just seems to be there's a varsity team and everything. And I always found that the team that wins the national championship your freshman year is a team you don't, as a high school, is a team you don't forget. And Villanova won my freshman year. And I remember always thinking, for recruiting purposes, I always like to see how they do in a couple of years when that freshman's now a junior or senior looking to go somewhere. And usually it usually goes well. Usually
that's interesting.
Parallels well. Yeah. So if we look to see how Villanova, now part of that is because Villanova could be still relevant and whatever. But I remember Gary Payton. If you remember Gary Payton, who's a Hall of Famer, he was from Denver, Colorado, and the year that the St. John's went to the Final Four that year was in Colorado. and he was a kid, and he saw St. John's play in that. He wanted to go there. That was his dream school, St. John's. And St. John's didn't recruit Gary Payton. So he wound up going to, was it Oregon State that he went to, I think it was, and he's a Hall of Famer. So it's one of those things where people remember their favorite schools that they want to play for and everything.
That's so interesting, because I was never a fan of college sports at all until Rich went to my brother went to school. And I was a Penn State fan, so I was like, all right, if he's going